RTV6 News at 6.
Are these numbers correct?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
That shows 0.
Now at 6, parents say their school's bullying numbers just aren't adding up. Call 6 Investigates is working to get answers tonight and found some Indiana schools reporting no bullying incidents at all. And other districts are misreporting how often students are bullied, even though they're required by law to report the information. What our Carrie Kinney found after months of digging has some districts changing how they do things.
That's right. Some schools are changing their bullying numbers because of our questions. Now, schools are required to report bullying incidents to the State Department of Education. Every one of these numbers, that's a bullied student. This law has been in place since 2013, yet we found some schools missing the mark.
Bullying is a buzzword in Indiana schools. Hallways and district websites are covered with materials on bullying, which is why we were shocked to find 6 out of 10 Indiana schools did not report a single bullying incident this past school year. And 14% of schools have not reported any bullying since the law took effect 3 years ago. Fairland mom Angie Staggy pushed lawmakers to pass the legislation after her daughter was tormented.
They told her to go kill herself, hang herself. They beat her up in the bathroom.
We showed Staggy all the zeros we found.
This is really disheartening to me. We are really letting our kids down.
Staggy says the idea behind the law was for schools and the state to track how often students are bullied and prevent it from happening.
Is this what you had in mind?
This is not what I had in mind.
Amanda Snap and Tammy Dyson both say their children were victims of repeated bullying within the Perry Township school system.
They threatened to kill her.
Bullying they say they reported to school officials.
There was stuff that happened on the school bus almost every day.
Perry Township reported 0 bullying incidents at Southport High School last school year. That's when Tammy says her daughter was bullied. Southport Middle School reported 0 bullying during the 2015-2016 school year, when Amanda says her son was bullied.
Are these numbers correct?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Nope.
Dyson says the taunting got so bad she filed this police report.
It's like a real kick in the face. It really is.
We requested an on-camera interview with the district, but they declined, sending us this written statement. We wanted to talk to the superintendent.
I was wondering if we could take just a couple of minutes to talk about the bullying numbers.
So we showed up before a public school board meeting.
Some parents are saying these numbers just aren't accurate. What's your response to that?
Well, the numbers were reported by the building administrators who would be in those buildings investigating those.
Superintendent Pat Mapes emphasizes Perry Township's numbers reported to the state are substantiated bullying cases.
So just because a student reports that they've been bullying does not necessarily mean that that number would be reported to the state.
If it didn't meet the definition of bullying.
The state's definition of bullying says it has to be repeated with the intent to harass, ridicule, humiliate, intimidate, or harm the targeted student and create a hostile school environment.
We have students who kind of monitor this and help solve resolutions and conflict resolutions that's working. And obviously some of our numbers prove that it works.
We thanked Mapes for talking to us and started to leave.
You're more than welcome to set up an appointment time instead of just rushing in.
But we had tried to set up an appointment in a September 14th email to Superintendent Mapes and the district's communications director.
The email I sent said, in lieu of an interview, please accept our statement.
Right, but we think this is something that he needs to answer these questions about. I don't think the statement answered those questions. That's why we're here. He answered the questions.
Great way to do it.
Bottom line, Perry Township stands behind its numbers.
Can we hop upstairs for a second?
I'm going to run a board meeting here, so she can go upstairs.
We didn't go upstairs. We stayed for the board meeting and later sat down with Indianapolis Public Schools, one of several districts we found misreported its bullying numbers to the state. We found 2/3 of IPS schools reported 0 bullying last school year, and George Washington High didn't report any bullying over the past 3 years.
What happened? It was an oversight, a very unfortunate oversight. We hate that it happened. We regret that it happened, but we own it.
District spokeswoman Carrie Black says IPS has been recording bullying incidents at the school level.
This was an upload error in what was being sent to the state.
After our inquiries, IPS updated its bullying figures to numbers they say are accurate, 689 incidents last school year. The district has also improved its procedures to make sure they report bullying accurately moving forward.
we do want to make sure that we get it right.
Parents of bullied teens say they want schools to take it seriously and report when students are bullied.
Make your kids feel safe in the schools.
But after seeing a sea of zeros, they're left to wonder if the anti-bullying law is having any impact at all.
This is bad.
Get this, there's no punishment for districts who break the law, even though the state uses these numbers to figure out what's happening in our schools. Tonight on the news at 11, we asked the state why their data was missing some important pieces. Kara Kenny, RTV6.
News at 11.
You're taking what Call 6 found and making changes.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. We take this very seriously.
The state of Indiana is making changes following a Call 6 investigation into how schools report bullying. We found some schools misreporting how often students are bullied and even found errors in the state's own numbers. Call 6 Investigates' Kara Kenny has been working on behalf of parents with bullied kids, and she joins us with the latest.
Schools are supposed to report bullying incidents to the State Department of Education per a 2013 law. We're talking about physical, verbal, social, even electronic bullying. It all has to be reported. The state then shares these numbers with lawmakers and criminal justice experts so they can get a handle on how often bullying is happening. But we found flaws in the state's own data, prompting the Department of Education to make changes.
All three of these moms say their children were bullied in Indiana schools.
They beat her up in the bathroom.
And all three say the state's bullying numbers are wrong.
It upsets me.
Call 6 Investigates found some schools misreported their bullying numbers, and 6 out of 10 Indiana schools reported 0 bullying incidents this past school year.
This is comical, like the whole thing, and it's not, but it is.
When we looked closer, we found schools missing altogether from the state's list.
Would you agree that the initial data that you gave us was a mess?
A mess? I would say that it was definitely missing some pieces, yes.
The head of school safety for the State Department of Education agreed to sit down with us. David Woodward explained some schools mistakenly believed the system would automatically enter a 0 if they didn't put in anything, which meant some schools disappeared.
We found schools, even large schools, reporting 0 incidents of bullying. Is that really possible?
That's a great question. It wouldn't match the national averages.
17% of American students report being bullied at least twice a month, and 70% say they've witnessed bullying in their schools. But we found Indiana schools reporting 0 after 0.
How are you going to track it if you don't have good data?
Right. It's so difficult to track because rarely is it such a clean break as this kid was a bully and this kid was a victim.
Schools may interpret the state's definition of bullying differently. Woodward says while they do not systematically review the accuracy of each school's bullying numbers, they do help districts with bullying training and also look at the school's bullying protocols.
We spot check, yes. But what we don't necessarily say, well, what about this student? What about that student?
The state cannot punish schools who misreport bullying. There's no penalty for failing to follow the law. After Call 6 Investigates pointed out flaws in the state's data, the state updated its bullying numbers and is taking steps to make sure schools accurately report it.
We're putting in some safeguards. So when a school does put their data in next year, a box will come up and basically say, you reported this number of bullying incidents. Is this true and accurate? That way it's almost like a verification of the data twice.
Schools emphasize students should report bullying.
You have all this stuff all over the school that says bullying is not tolerated.
Which makes it a tough pill for parents to swallow when some schools are not reporting it.
I am very ashamed at our schools. This is awful.
Despite these numbers, Woodward says the anti-bullying law is working. Students and staff are better trained to recognize bullying, as well as other concerning behaviors like a student contemplating suicide. Kara Kenny, RTV6. From the looks of our Facebook page, bullying is a topic that touches many of our families. We've actually received hundreds of Facebook comments from parents saying their child was bullied and their school's bullying numbers don't reflect that. We took our findings to the man who wrote the law to find out what he plans to do about it.
Come on, let's be real about it.
Representative Greg Porter is calling on schools to tell the truth about bullying in their schools. Call 6 Investigates found some schools misreported their bullying numbers, and 6 out of 10 Indiana schools reported 0 bullying incidents this past school year, including large schools.
There's no way that you can have 3,000 or 4,000 students in a high school and you have no incidents of bullying. How can you not report that.
Youth advocate Mindy Goodpaster worked with Porter on the state's anti-bullying law. They were both right by then Governor Mike Pence when he signed it back in 2013.
Okay, and what's your reaction to what we found?
I was shocked, but not shocked. So I'm disappointed that we saw that schools weren't reporting that they had any bullying incidents. We saw that, they're not taking the issue as seriously as we had hoped.
Both say they had a feeling when the law was passed it would be tough to enforce because there's no punishment for failing to report bullying incidents. But child advocates emphasize the law is there for a reason.
The reporting was just to try to get some data statewide on what our problem really is. It was not intended to, penalize the schools or say you're a bad school, but rather here's your issue and let's try to put the pieces together.
Some districts like IPS admitted they misreported and vowed to do better, but other schools stand by their zeros.
We know that that cannot be the case.
What do you say to schools that are not reporting accurately?
Well, at this point, we need for them to reconsider.
Porter and Goodpaster will now work on finding a solution so that schools accurately report bullying. They plan to bring together at least 20 groups to talk about it ahead of the legislative session.
There's always daylight in legislation, and so we want to expose a day like this there and then come back and move forward.
I just got off the phone with Representative Woody Burton, a Republican co-author of the bullying bill. He says getting schools to report is like herding ants. He plans to meet with school superintendents in his district as well as the State Department of Education to see what can be done to fix the problem. Erica?